Hey friends, welcome to Gardening with Creekside. Today I am going to share with you a checklist of tasks that you can be doing in your garden as we leave winter behind and we enter into spring. Now, I do not want to put a timetable on this because it is going to depend on where you live and the weather. There's a lot of factors that are going to play into this list of tasks that you can be doing in your garden. Again, there is grace in gardening. I want you to look at this as a list of things that you could be doing, kind of like an activities idea list, and not that you must do this. I don't ever want you to be a slave to your garden. You want to enjoy the garden. The garden is here to bring us joy, not to bring us stress. For me, where I am in North Carolina, a Zone 8A, I am going to be sharing with you things that I can be doing immediately, like right now, and or that I have already done in my garden. If you are in colder zones, if you are buried under snow, obviously you're not going to be doing these things right now. You're going to be doing them when the snow has melted and the garden begins to tell you that it is waking up. This is where being a student of your own garden really comes into play. This is why I encourage you, as you leave winter behind, go into spring, do those daily garden walks. Literally, y'all, just walk through your space. You will be amazed at the things that you will see and what changes from day to day. So we are going to go over a list of ideas that you can be doing. At the end of the video, I'm going to have a graphic for you that lists all of these things. So if you want to take advantage of that graphic, at the end of the video, you can simply pause the video. You can take a screenshot, or if you prefer the pen and paper method, just pause it and write down the ideas. So I want you to just kind of sit back and relax and enjoy. Hopefully I will have a nugget or two of wisdom in here for you that you can then apply to your garden at the appropriate time. Like I said, I am in North Carolina. I'm a Zone 8A, and spring has sprung very early here. I was looking at some past pictures. I had, like 2 years ago, my tulips were blooming almost a month later than what they are now. So it has just come on really fast here, but I am not going to complain. It is gorgeous. Now, this is in no particular order of things to do. It is simply as I'm walking through the garden, I'm going to be sharing with you things that I know that I need to do and or have done here recently. So no particular order. One thing, and this comes a lot of too, I know that if I'm having to do it in my garden or I'm thinking about it in my garden, odds are somebody else is thinking about it in their garden. And from all of your comments, reading through your questions, comments on social media, I know that you're thinking of the same things too. All right, so again, no particular order here whatsoever. One thing, if you want to divide perennials, now is a great time to do it. Remember a couple of weeks ago where I had this container? We have two of the eucharis, the Southern Comfort. Now they were actually two separate plants. I did not divide them. I just simply separated them out. But now is a great time to do it. So if you want to divide your hostas, in the bed here, I do have some little hostas peeking through, my early ones. If you want to divide your hostas, if you want to move your hellebores, if you want to move a grass, if you want to move a shrub, now is a great time to do it. We want to do it before the stress of the summer hits. For example, so this is the pretty bed that I did. This is the bed that still needs work. I am going to remove these Scentlandias. I have 3 Scentlandias here that have simply, they're too big for the space. They're sending out runners. I think you can probably see, like right here, see how it's attached. Clearly, they love this bed. They love the irrigation and they are overtaking this bed. I need them out. So within the next couple of weeks, I am going to remove them out of this bed and then plant something that I do want in there. That is still to be determined, exactly what I want to have in there. So if you need to move shrubs or divide perennials, now's a great time to do it. Just last week, I was in here and you saw me begin my fertilizing regimen. As you leave winter behind and go into spring, plants need food. They need to have that nice food source as they go in. Now, Some years you're gonna be on top of it and some years you're not, and that's okay, y'all. Any kind of food you can give it is gonna be better than nothing. As I always say, Plant Tone is the Swiss Army knife of fertilizers, so when in doubt, use Plant Tone. If you wanna get more specific, you absolutely can. Begin feeding your plants now. I have had, we're gonna get into some more specifics later because I have some roses. People are asking about roses. I will share with that in just a minute because I've got some great examples around the corner. If you have the opportunity to add mulch, compost, it's a great time to do it. I like adding mulch and compost, one or the other, right? Either in the fall, like late fall, or this time of year. Simply for very practical reasons. Here I have 3 groups of David Austin roses. Do you see how nice and short and tiny they are, and they don't have a whole lot of limbs because I pruned them? Well, guess what? It's a whole lot easier to add fertilizer and compost and mulch around those roses right now than when they are full grown and very thorny and pesky. Same thing in this flower bed, the shade bed that I was in last week. My plants are still dormant. It was super easy to get in there and just like physically move around because you're not fighting the plants, all right? So we're gonna fertilize. We are going to compost and or mulch. And you can see that that is a process for us because I have other areas that have not been done yet. Back there in that Scentlandia bed, it has not been done. I'm gonna wait till I pull those plants out. And then we will then go ahead and do a nice top dress of a compost mulch blend. Now, the fun thing, if you are looking around your garden and as you come into spring and you notice maybe that one, you don't have a lot of spring color, or you want to up your game next year. It could be a case of both choices, okay? So every season we go into, you want to evaluate your garden. We're going to evaluate, do I have interest this time of year? So it doesn't matter if it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. Do you have some interest in your garden? Spring is a great time, right? Of course, you can choose from lots of flowering trees. You can do cherry trees, right? So this is a flowering Okami cherry tree. She's one of the earliest flowering cherry trees. I have Yoshinos in the berm. They're not flowering yet. I have a purple plum. It's not flowering yet. So if you want to add in some interest in your garden with spring flowering trees, it is a great time to do it. And maybe you know that you want to add those trees, but maybe it's not a good time. Maybe it's financially not a good time. Maybe it's physically not a good time. Maybe your area that you want to put it is not prepped yet. That's totally fine. Just make a note of it. So in the fall or when you are ready to do it, I would advise late winter, early spring, or fall, right? Winter, not the dead of summer. That's not the best time to be planting trees. Make a note, know what you want to add to their garden, and then when the time's appropriate, then add it. But this is a good time to evaluate your garden. For example, Megan and I, Megan is our middle daughter, it was her idea to do the pink tulips. So stinking glad that she did because we have so enjoyed. This is the Smooch blend from Color Blends, and she and I are already dreaming about next spring. We are dreaming about what colors do we want to do? Where do we want to put them? All of those kinds of things. I'm just speaking for Color Blends, and I get nothing from Color Blends. This is just one gardener to the next. You can make a wish list on their website. That's just like your personal wish list. So I'm going in there and just anything that I'm liking or I think I want to add, then I go ahead and add that to my wish list. So think about your spring flowering bulbs, whether it's tulips, maybe it's daffodils, maybe it's snowdrops, maybe it's crocus, right? There's lots and lots of possibilities for you to choose. So think about your spring interest and then make notes so that when the time is appropriate for you, you can then add those to your garden. Roses. Let's talk about roses. If you have roses or I would say almost, we're going to put this in together with shrubs, right? You want to prune your shrubs that bloom or have new growth, right? So bloom on new growth or they just need to be pruned and now's a good time to do it. When in doubt, go to Professor Google, okay? I don't care what the plant is. If you go to Professor Google and you put, when is the best time to prune fill in the blank. A rose, a hibiscus, a boxwood, a viburnum, a edgeworthia, right? Whatever the plant is, put it in. You're going to get some good consistent information from that, so act accordingly. Now, roses. I have already pruned my roses, and you can see them here. So the best time optimally to prune roses is in really kind of winter. So for me, that is in that January, February, before they really start putting on lots of active new growth. So right here I have Brother Codful. This is a David Austin rose. You can see that it's been pruned. Let's talk fertilizer. All right, because I get tons of people asking me, when am I going to start fertilizing my roses? I have not done it yet, but this is, when I'm looking at this rose, this is a great time to do it. Do you see that lovely new growth that is really popping out? This rose has really begun her active growing phase. That is when we want to start applying that fertilizer. Now, what you fertilize with is completely up to you. I just use Rose Tone because that's what we have at the nursery. It is a slow release organic fertilizer that works really well with roses. So you can follow the directions on the bag, whichever rose fertilizer you want to use, then you can use that. So here we have Gertrude Jekyll, and you can see that she is just starting to put on some active growth as well. But then you come down here to the Scepter to Isle, and there's very little. It all depends on the rose, y'all. And this is where Scepter to Isle is one of the hottest spots in the garden. So it's not a heat issue, it's simply the plant. She's going to be a little bit later, but I did notice yesterday, do you see that sprig right there? Yep. So it is shooting up new growth. So it is coming. So with your roses, once you start to see that active growth period, then that is a great time to go ahead and fertilize them. We also get tons of questions about how do we deal with Japanese beetles, because in the South, and I know that they're spreading rapidly across the country, so it's just not a Southern thing anymore. It used to be, but it's not anymore. Japanese beetles are such a problem because there's no natural predator for a Japanese beetle. They're not a native insect. They can come in the summertime, and once they hatch up out of the grass, they can literally defoliate a plant seemingly overnight. And so it is a real problem. With my roses, when they were young, like my first year, 2 years, I used the Bare 3-in-1 Rose and Flower Care. So in that was a fertilizer, a fungicide, and then it was a systemic. So the systemic is what the plant soaks up and defends it. So when an insect chews on the plant, it dies. So that would take care of the Japanese beetles, it takes care of aphids, it takes care of the, I think it's the sawtooth larva fly. So they're little tiny little caterpillars that are on the back side of a leaf. They'll take your hibiscus out too. But they just put all these holes in the leaves. So it takes care of all of that. That I think you have to apply like once a month, and it's a granular, or you can do a spray as well. People ask, what do you use? Well, the best thing that I personally have found is the Fertilome. It is the Fertilome Tree and Shrub Drench. It is a liquid, and you will mix it with 1 gallon of water in it, or 2 gallons of water, depends on how big the plant is. And in the packaging, it tells you how to measure it out. So there's a ratio. So for, say, a rose that's 3 feet tall, and I'm making this up, I don't know specifically, the container will tell you. Maybe you mix 6 ounces of the Fertilome with 1 gallon of water, and then you pour it around the base of the plant. That gives you 12 months of protection. And it's not a fungicide, and it's not a fertilizer. It is simply a systemic that keeps chewing insects from destroying your plants. That personally is what we use here. We have not found a decline in our pollinator population. I know that's a huge concern with some people. Y'all, it's your garden. You do what you need to do in your garden. So that is what we use. Have found it to be extremely effective. It lasts for a year, 12 months. I apply it once. I need to go ahead and apply it now. Yeah, so that is what we use in case you are interested in that. That is, there you go. So also, now let's talk about some annuals. Okay, if your climate, if your temperatures allow, go ahead and cautiously begin planting some cool weather annuals. You saw me plant up my urns just the other day with some cool weather loving annuals. So this is the Aromanth mulberry nemesia. Gorgeous plum colored flowers, so pretty, have a lovely fragrance to them. And then in the center, they're not flowering yet, hopefully soon, I did the Bright Lights Horizon Sunset Osteospermums, African daisies. So this container can handle those cool nights. Now, if we get an incredibly hard freeze, like anything that I see below 30, I will cover this. So I will probably take, try to put something like hard in the middle or somewhere around it, some sort of like little stake, and then take my burlap bags, sheets, towels, and wrap it to keep the frost and the freeze off of it. It can take low temperatures. Even in those low 30s, it can handle. In the 20s, I'm gonna go ahead and cover it. But they will do really well, gives you that early color. For me in the South, it's not gonna last all season long. And when you get to July and August, it's gonna get way too hot, so I will switch these out. This is what we're gonna leave planted though for the wedding. So because we have, remember, the wedding reception is going to be right back here in the back. Let's see. Okay, if you want to plant perennials rather, this flower bed, I forgot to show you, I have a stash of plants that I need to plant. This little area right here is, I think everybody has that weird spot in their house because it's really hard to make, a 360 degree, I guess, yeah, because a complete circumference of your house look pristine at all times, because we have utilities and we have, air conditioning units and heating units. We have the little door that's opened because our gas tank's under there, and so they have to come regularly and fill it up. So that's why we have a little door there. But you want to dress it up, but you also have to make it accessible for the people who come to service it, that they can get in there and do their job. So this little area is that side of our house. So typically there are very few people that ever walk by the side of this house. However, as I said, we're going to be having the wedding, and the wedding ceremony is at the nursery. They're going to walk through here to go to the reception, and they're going to see this. I need to dress it up. Also, we're going to have the signature experience in June, and we're going to have 50 sweet folks walking around our yard, and so I need to have it nice and dressed up. If you want to add perennials or shrubs, now is a great time to do it. So if you have these project ideas, it is a great time to do it. This bed here is not on irrigation, so I want to get my plants in as soon as possible. That way they can get acclimated and get nice and strong roots before the heat of the summer hits. Speaking of projects, walk around your yard, talk with your spouse, talk with your partner, talk with whomever is your buddy in life, and go ahead and start talking about, do we want to have some projects or tweaks that we want to make to the garden? Great time to do it. So this is our project area, because we've been in this flower bed many times before, and I adore this bed. It is growing and maturing quite nicely. So in the back, we have 4 tea olives. This is a sweet osmanthus, right? So these are evergreen shrubs that this time of year, well, they actually started in the fall, and throughout the winter, they will put on these little tiny little kind of creamy white flowers. Their flowers are very small, but they have the most delicious fragrance ever. I was over here yesterday afternoon, the sun was hitting them, and they smelled divine. So they are growing nice and large, because I will come in here and prune them. It's just not quite, they're still blooming, so I don't want to prune them yet. And then we have, this is our dwarf Hortsman. So this is a blue Atlas cedar. It is a dwarf. Loves this spot. Nice and big. This is kind of a Dr. Seuss tree, because it's very funky, and just loves this space. So as these plants are growing, these shrubs and trees are growing, I am losing some of my space for my annuals. I really am not upset about that. That's fine. But you will also see that we have a a lovely, just really classy, makes it photographs just look great. The downspout here. We have an issue with the downspout. When we built the house, we did not connect the downspouts on the house. Big mistake. Because what happens is I've just added this pipe, well, I say just, like maybe within the last year or so. And so before we would get major wash. Now you can see the wash that I'm talking about because of course the little spout is missing the concrete downspout altogether, but can you see how much it has eroded the soil right there? And then you have all of this red clay soil exposed. So what we're going to do is carefully, because the grass is looking great, Jerry is going to come in and we're going to selectively trench, put in a solid black corrugated pipe, bring it out, and then here kind of out into the grass, we're going to put a pop-up. So it's a green pop-up. Get them at any of your home improvement stores, right? So that black corrugated pipe will be buried. You're not going to see it. It's going to come underground, and then this green pop-up. I don't know how else to describe it, but when it fills with water, the lid pops up, the water flows out, and when the water's done, it pops back down. So it's smooth with your grass, and it's green, so it just completely disappears. You never see it, but it's just a great way to get the water out. So we are going to do that, and while we're at it, Jerry was like, well, let's just go ahead and extend the bed a little bit. I'm like, well, sounds great to me. So basically we're going to carefully cut the grass out. We'll have to do it by hand probably, and extend it right in this area. So where you see that soil exposed, that's going to be flower bed, and then we're going to come in and then tie it back into the bed. So I will probably gain at the highest point, the widest point, I may gain 2 to 3 feet of flower bed. So that's really fun and something to think about. But if you have these projects where you're thinking about adding a new flower bed, or you need to tweak something, or you want to take something out, perfect time to do it, my friends. And if now is not a great time to do it, it's okay. Put it on the to-do list. There is grace in gardening. If you hear nothing else from me today, I want you to hear that there is grace in gardening. This is not this massive, oh my gosh, I have to do this, this, and this. There should not be stress in gardening. Unless you're hosting a wedding, then there might be a little stress involved. But other than that, it's fine. It's fine. It's all good. Actually, I joked with Alyssa and I was like, it's a good thing you are getting married here because, man, we're going to get some projects knocked off. Okay, side note. I'm just going to give you an update on this flower bed because I love it. I did plant it thinking of the wedding and Alyssa's colors. I planted it in the fall. I honestly imagine that this will be ripped out before the end of May, but even still, I wanted to have it ready just in case, or if she wanted pictures. You never know. I just wanted to plan for all the scenarios. So we have in here, this was a pansy mix and just gorgeous colors. These are kind of in that color palette that she's going to use for the wedding. We did the Ms. America mustards, and oh my gosh, they are fantastic. So nice, dark foliage, right? They've been in here all winter long, y'all. These are a cool weather, like you can eat this. This is like a lettuce or a kale, right? But it's a mustard, and it has that really dark, almost near black foliage, dark purple. It is great. Once the heat hits, it will start to bolt. So just like a lettuce or a kale, it'll shoot up, it'll flower, and then it would set seed. Obviously, we don't want that, but this is an ornamental mustard that we are using in the garden. And you were with me when I did this. Look, you know what those are? Those are some sweet anemones. Yes, I planted these anemones in the fall, and when I did this flower bed, and they are coming up. Where I am, I can do anemones either in the fall or the spring. You saw me just this week plant some in the spring, so maybe those will make it for the wedding, but I've never grown anemones before. I've got them popping up all over the place. This was a mix. I don't remember which one. I think it was a mix. I'll pop it up on the screen for you. But yeah, look at that. This one's the most advanced. I think because it probably gets the sun earliest and then stays in the sun more. But I am so excited about these. When they first started putting on foliage, which was months ago, I thought, oh my gosh, what kind of weed is that? And then it took me a minute. I was like, oh no, those are not weeds. Those are my anemones. Don't pull those. So I had to have a little chat with myself. But you can see, I mean, they're popping up everywhere. So really, really, really excited about that. So I hope that this has been helpful. I hope it's been encouraging just to know that, you know, if you're a gardener, there is always something to be done in the garden. If you're covered in snow, then there is always plans to be made and dreams to be dreamed and to have fun. One of the things that I would say also is we personally are not going to do a ton of vegetable gardening this year. That's just something that we're just kind of moving away from. But if you are a vegetable gardener or you like doing, raising some food, right? Whether it's herbs, I don't care what it is. Go ahead and start thinking of what supplies do I need? Again, depends on where you are. Sometimes, you know, some people have already started seeds. Some people are not thinking about seeds yet. But think about, what supplies do I need? Do you need some trellises for your cucumbers? Do you need new tomato stakes? Do you need new twine for your roses? Are you low on your fertilizer and you need to get that? Go ahead and start taking kind of inventory of your supplies, your gardening supplies, your tools that you're going to need, and then go ahead and get them early. I personally like to order them early because, one, I order them when I think about them, and then two, the early bird gets the worm, because these companies are just like everybody else, and it's when the weather changes is when people think about it and they start ordering, and then things become out of stock or they're back ordered, and then when you need them you can't have them, right, because they're not available. So earlier is always better. If you have somewhere to store them and put them away, that is a great option. But yeah, I hope it has been helpful and informative. One last thing, because we're going to get tons of questions on it, our grass. So where we are in North Carolina, I can grow either cool weather grass, which is what we have. This is a fescue blend. Or I can grow hot weather grass, which is Bermuda, centipede, zoysia, that kind of grass. Jerry and I choose to grow fescue grass here because it is a cool weather grass and it stays green all winter long. The only time it may start to show some stress is in the dead heat of the summer. So maybe end of July into August. It may start to go dormant a little bit, where you might have some like not as vibrant green, but we love fescue because of this very reason. If you have a warm weather grass, your Bermuda, zoysia, centipede, all those things I listed, yours is probably still brown. So that's just a little thing. If you do have fescue, it is a great time to go ahead and put pre-emergence down to prevent any of those winter weeds from popping up. Oh, that would be another thing. Pull the weeds. Pull the weeds while they're little, because I will show you a hot mess right here. People ask, how do you keep your beds weeded? Well, we hand weed the vast majority. The only big open spaces we may spray, but for the most part we hand pull. If you don't hand pull while they're little, you may end up with a mess like this. So all of those are weeds. Now I got my daylilies in there and I have my grass right here, but all that light stuff, those are weeds. So if you find a weed when it's little, pull it. So that's always forever on the to-do list, right? Okay. I probably could go on forever and ever about this video on things to do in the garden, because it seems like there's a bunch of things to do. There's always a bunch of things to do in the garden. Ultimately, enjoy your space. It's number one. Enjoy your space. Whatever your space is, whether you have big open land like I do, the house nursery sits on 8.5 acres. That's a lot of land to maintain. Or you're in an apartment like my sister in downtown in a city. Whatever your space is, enjoy that, right? It is your space. Make it home. Create a space that you love. Number one for a gardener. All right, I'm really done now. Y'all have a great day. We'll see you in the next video. Bye, friends.